My name is Suzanne Ross. I, along with my husband Keith Ross, formed the Raven Foundation, where we study the effects of and the phenomenon of scapegoating with the goal of ending scapegoating. We've been watching the financial crisis unfold, as I'm sure you have been, and observing the government's attempts at intervention, and in particular, this sort of non-stop round-the-clock search for who to blame, who's responsible for the situation we're in. And at Raven, we have been sort of getting this weird feeling that what we're in the midst of is an unfolding sort of lab experiment on scapegoating. We really feel as if the situation is ripe for a scapegoating event. It's kind of like we feel a little bit like a meteorologist watching a tropical storm out in the mid-Atlantic and trying to figure out, is it gonna come together into a strong hurricane? Is it going, and how big a hurricane will it be, and what direction is it going to go in, and who's it going to hit? So we've been wondering if we might be in the midst of sort of like a scapegoating tropical storm that could become a Category 5 scapegoating event. And what would that mean? I mean, think of your classic stereotypical witch hunt mob. That's a Class 5 scapegoating event. It is an angry mob, it is irrational, and it's bloodthirsty. And it's not going to be satisfied until the witch is dead. The issue in the witch hunt, of course, is that they're going after someone for something like maybe the crops failed, the wells dried up, and once the witch is dead, the crops are still going to be dust and the wells are still dried up. So the mob may have vented their frustration and their anger, but the underlying problem is still there. So what we have before us in this financial crisis is very similar. What we're trying to do, I think, people of good faith and integrity are really trying to understand what went wrong, how can we solve it, but because there's so much fear and anxiety in the air, we are at risk of blaming the wrong people and ending up on a witch hunt instead of on a search for solutions. So what we're going to do here, we're going to invite you into a conversation with us here at the Raven to try and determine whether the accusations we're hearing swirling around out there are scapegoating accusations or really helpful analysis of the problem. And we have a resource here to help us do that. My husband Keith is a expert in the financial markets. He's had a 30-year-long career in the markets. He was a trader on the floor of the American Stock Exchange. He was an options analyst, a CEO of his own firm, which was a member of the New York Stock Exchange. He's just been in the markets his whole life. And every morning we have a routine now where I read the papers and try and make sense of this financial problem, and I look over at him and it's kind of like scapegoat of the day. It's like, can we blame this today? And he just keeps shaking his head at me and saying it's not that simple. And he helps me understand the facts behind the accusations. And so what we're going to do is invite you to let us know what you're thinking is the cause of this financial problem, and bring these issues and accusations to Keith and let him analyze it and tell us, are we onto something here, or are we reacting out of fear, and if we really do pin the blame on this thing, we're still going to have a dried up well. So the first question, I think we'll go over to his office. He's not only the founder of the Raven Foundation, but he runs a couple of small businesses from his office around the corner. So let's go over and ask Keith what he thinks about the dimensions of this problem. Okay, so we're going to go down the hall. And I did want to let you know that if you're interested in more information about scapegoating, we have a website where we have some good information about how to understand and recognize scapegoating when it's happening. And our website is www.ravenfoundation.org. So I think you'll enjoy checking that information out. But here's Keith's office. Let's make sure he's here. He is here. Okay. Hi, hon. So we're here to ask you.
Hi, Adam.
The question about the dimensions of the problem. If the government, the financial analysts, the talking heads on TV are telling us, they're evoking the images of the Great Depression and the crash of '29. What do you think about how serious this problem really is?
Those analogies are probably pretty close. This is a very serious problem. The markets have been struggling, different companies have been struggling for a better part of the year now. And I think the trigger event was probably last week when the Treasury and the Secretary of the Treasury, Mr. Paulson, became concerned about money market funds running into issues similar to a bank run. People started to take money out of their deposits, buy Treasury bills, thinking they were the safest place to have funds. And it's a very, very big market. The money market accounts, they're an essential part of the process of raising funds for corporations and doing business. Estimates are that there are over $4 trillion in these funds. And if our economy lost this source of savings for those that are looking for better yields and cash available to loan to businesses doing business, it would very likely put us back into a depression-like scenario. So yes, this is a very serious problem. It's very important that the government has taken action. Their action may not be perfect. It's dramatically better than what the situation would be if they did not take action.
Yeah. So, we're looking at the worst case scenario could be more defaults on mortgages, skyrocketing unemployment. The image in my mind is, the bread lines and the people out of work and brother, can you spare a dime kind of thing.
We're not there yet, but we are going to have issues. The patient is going to survive. The government has done the right thing, but the recovery process is going to take time. It'll be several years before housing prices are back to their 2000 and 2006 levels. People are still going to have issues paying their mortgages, keeping their jobs. Unemployment is going to go up. This is a really difficult situation, but this was the best thing to do, because the other consequence would have been very seismic in terms of the implications for our daily lives.
Right. And we still, of course, don't know what the solution is going to be, or things are still in Congress. And
yes.
We're trying everyone's trying to get their piece of the pie.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens. But I think the reality is that we are in a serious problem, and as the next weeks unfold with this, we really want to be involved with you in analyzing the dynamics of what's happening. And so please send us your suggestions of the areas we should be looking at. Where do you think accusations are flying and where scapegoating is happening? And we'll bring them to Keith and see what's going on. Thanks.